So I want you to picture a 57-year-old guy.
Okay.
He's driving a 10-year-old Ford sedan. He's wearing this basic Timex watch, and he's dressed in a completely unpretentious, off-the-rack suit that he probably picked up at JCPenney.
Right.
And he lives in a perfectly normal middle-class neighborhood. Like, the houses aren't mansions at all. They're just standard 3-bedroom builds.
Yeah, just your average American suburb.
Exactly. And when he takes his kids out for a quick lunch on a Saturday, he actually makes them order from the $1 value menu.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So now, looking at this guy, right, just scanning the data points of his life, society makes an instant calculation.
Sure, we all do.
Right? You'd probably assume he's struggling. Maybe he's, barely making ends meet, living paycheck to paycheck, deeply stressed about inflation. But the reality, like the statistical reality,
Yeah.
that guy is the actual millionaire next door.
It completely inverts the paradigm, doesn't it? I mean, it is the ultimate paradox of American wealth.
It really is.
We have been so heavily conditioned by culture, by media, by our Instagram feeds to look for the shiny objects, right?
The luxury stuff.
Exactly. We look for the visible markers of success, the luxury cars, the massive watches, the designer labels.
Yeah.
And because we are looking for those specific beacons, we completely overlook the people who actually hold the vast majority of the wealth in this country. Like, we look right past them in the grocery store.
And that image, that guy in the 10-year-old Ford, that is the perfect launch pad for our deep dive today.
Absolutely.
We are exploring the landmark, frankly, paradigm-shattering research of Thomas J. Stanley and William D. Danko from their incredible book, The Millionaire Next Door.
Such a classic.
It is. And the mission for our deep dive today is to essentially reverse engineer the American wealth building system.
Which is desperately needed right now.
Yeah, completely. We're looking at a massive stack of sources here. I mean, decades of IRS data, thousands of in-depth psychological and financial interviews. The goal is to uncover the surprising, often completely counterintuitive secrets of America's wealthy.
And this deep dive is foundational. Like, if you have any interest in financial freedom, in entrepreneurship, in capital allocation, or just high performance in life, this data is required reading.
Yeah, it really rewires how you think.
It does, because the fundamental thesis we are dealing with here requires you to completely detach from everything you've been taught about money.
Okay, let's unpack this. What's the core idea?
The core idea, the bedrock of all this research, is basically this wealth is not the same as income.
Right.
If you generate a massive income each year, say you're pulling down, $500,000, and you spend it all on a hyperinflated lifestyle, you aren't getting wealthier.
You're just living high.
Exactly. You have a high cash flow, but zero true wealth. Wealth is strictly what you accumulate and retain, not what you spend.
I want to stop you right there because this completely breaks my brain.
Yeah.
And I think it breaks the brain of most people operating in the modern economy.
Oh, for sure.
That distinction between income and wealth,
Yeah.
it shatters the illusion we've all been fed. We naturally conflate the two.
We do. We see someone step out of a brand new Ferrari and walk into a massive estate, and our brain automatically tags them as wealthy.
Right. But Stanley and Danko are saying that true financial independence, like the actual raw math of millions of dollars on a balance sheet, looks a lot more like that 10-year-old Ford than the Ferrari.
Yeah. And to truly internalize this, we have to dismantle what the researchers call the big lie.
The big lie.
Yeah, the big lie is the baseline assumption that high income and high social status automatically equate to high net worth.
Which makes sense evolutionarily.
Right, exactly. Human beings are visual creatures. We evaluate status based on visible markers.
Yeah.
Evolutionarily, we looked at who had the biggest fire or the most food.
Right.
Today, we look at zip codes and car hoods. But true wealth, in a modern capitalist system, is almost always invisible.
That's a great point.
You cannot see a diversified portfolio of Vanguard index funds. You can't see a zero balance mortgage. You cannot see equity in a private paving company.
Which brings us to one of the most brilliant concepts from the research, and a phrase that I literally haven't been able to get out of my head.
Big hat, no cattle.
Yes. Big hat, no cattle. I love that so much.
It's the perfect distillation of the big lie. The researchers actually picked up this phrase from a 35-year-old Texan they interviewed during their study.
Right. Tell this story, because it's amazing.
So this guy owned a highly successful business rebuilding large diesel engines. He was a massive accumulator of wealth.
But he didn't look like it.
Not at all. Physically, he drove a beat-up 10-year-old car, wore jeans and this faded buckskin shirt, and purposely lived in a lower-middle-class neighborhood alongside mechanics and postal workers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he shared a story about his British business partners flying into Texas to visit his operation. They walked into the office and completely ignored him. Yeah. They thought he was one of the truck drivers dropping off a rig. They literally introduced themselves to everyone else in the room until the senior partner finally realized the massive error.
That is so embarrassing for them.
Right. And the Texan just laughed it off and told the researchers, I don't own big hats, but I have a lot of cattle.
I mean, he didn't look the part, but his balance sheet proved exactly who he was.
Exactly.
And the research sets him up as the antithesis to a totally different archetype. They contrast him with a vice president of a trust department.
Oh, yeah, the trust officer.
Right. Think about this guy. He's wearing a $5,000 Rolex, bespoke custom suits. He leases a brand new imported luxury car every 2 years, and he probably looks down his nose at the guy in the buckskin shirt.
Almost certainly.
But that trust officer, despite the massive W-2 income and all those high-status artifacts, has virtually zero net worth.
He is quite literally all hat, no cattle.
Right. He's rich in artifacts, but bankrupt in equity.
And what's genuinely shocking when you dig into the IRS data and the demographic surveys they compiled is just how rare actual wealth is.
Even in the U.S.
Even in a country with an economy as massive as the United States. According to the data, only about 3.5% of American households are in the $1 million plus net worth category.
Wait, just 3.5%?
Just 3.5%.
That is staggering when you consider how many people look like they have $1 million.
Yeah.
Like if you drive through any major affluent suburb in America, you see driveways lined with $90,000 SUVs.
Exactly. But for every 100 households you drive past, maybe 3 or 4 actually have $1 million in net worth.
That is wild.
The rest are likely highly leveraged, floating on massive debt, and relying on next month's income to service the interest on their lifestyle.
So they're just on a treadmill.
A very expensive treadmill.
Okay.
And that leads us to the ultimate litmus test provided in the research, which is the wealth equation.
Okay, yes. This is the practical part.
Right. This is how you, if you're listening right now, can cut through the noise, ignore what your neighbors are doing, and measure where you actually stand.
Lay it on us. What's the formula?
The formula is remarkably simple. You take your current age, you multiply it by your realized pre-tax annual household income from all sources except inheritances, and then you divide that number by 10.
Okay.
The resulting figure is what your baseline net worth should be.
Okay, we all know the basic math, but let's run a scenario because I want to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
Let's say we have a 35-year-old rising star at a tech firm, like out in Silicon Valley.
Sure.
They're pulling down $250,000 a year. So 35 times $250,000 is $8,750,000.
Right.
Divide by 10, and you get $875,000. That is their expected net worth.
Correct. $875,000 is the baseline expectation for that specific income and age. Now, the researchers used this equation to divide the American population into 2 very distinct behavioral camps.
What are they?
On one side, you have the PAW's Prodigious Accumulators of Wealth. To qualify as a PAW, your actual net worth needs to be twice your expected level.
Oh, wow. So your 35-year-old tech worker would need a net worth of $1.75 million to be considered a PAW.
Exactly. And on the other side, you have the UAW's under accumulators of wealth. These are individuals whose net worth is 1/2 or less of their expected level.
So if our tech worker is worth less than, what, $437,000, they are a UAW.
Spot on.
Okay, I hear that, but let me challenge this formula.
Please do.
Because if I'm a 35-year-old making $250,000, I am probably working 70 hours a week.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
Right. I lease a nice car, I live in a great downtown condo, I wear the right clothes, and I have maybe $150,000 sitting in my 401k in a brokerage account.
Oh.
Society looks at me and says, you've made it. You are rich. I feel rich. Are you telling me that according to this data, because my cash is tied up in a lifestyle rather than a Vanguard account, I am a failure?
From a purely mathematical wealth accumulation standpoint, yes, absolutely, you are failing.
Wow.
I mean, the formula highlights the extreme danger of confusing a cash flow statement with a balance sheet.
Right.
That 35-year-old has an incredible cash flow. They play top-tier financial offense, but their financial defense is abysmal.
They're eating their seed corn.
Exactly. They are taking all that incredible inbound capital and converting it into depreciating assets, clothing, cars, expensive club memberships, high-rent apartments.
It's the classic treadmill, like the income goes up and the lifestyle spending rises immediately to match it, ensuring no capital actually gets trapped and put to work.
Precisely. And this behavior actually explains a fascinating demographic anomaly in the book.
Oh, what's that?
So the sources point out that 80 to 85% of millionaires in America are self-made, first-generation wealthy.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
They didn't inherit a dime.
Right. But when you look at the ancestry groups that excel at wealth building, you see smaller entrepreneurial immigrant groups, like Russian and Hungarian immigrants, for instance, vastly outperforming people whose families have been in the U.S. for generations.
Why is that? What is the specific mechanism driving that immigrant wealth creation? Because, it can't just be that they work harder. There has to be a structural or psychological reason.
It comes down to economic survival mechanisms and cultural values passed down, not biological traits.
Okay, makes sense.
Many of these groups experienced historical displacement or extreme economic volatility in their home countries.
So they don't trust the system.
Exactly. When they arrive, they have a profound mistrust of relying on a high-consumption lifestyle for security. They pass down extreme frugality, massive savings rates, and a deep, visceral desire for economic independence.
Wow.
They frequently utilize community lending pools to start businesses because they can't get traditional bank loans. They view capital strictly as a tool to buy autonomy and security.
They don't view capital as a vehicle to buy status artifacts to impress people.
Exactly. They are completely immune to the big lie because they know how fragile the system is.
So the takeaway for you listening right now is to stop the deep dive, pause it, and calculate your own wealth equation.
Definitely.
Figure out your expected net worth. And more importantly, decouple your self-worth from what your high-consuming neighbors are doing.
Yeah, that's crucial.
Because they might look wealthy, but mathematically, there's a massive probability they're UAWs. You might be agonizing over the fact that your neighbor just bought a new Porsche, while that same neighbor is secretly lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, having a panic attack about their credit card utilization and their massive tax bill.
Exactly. Which brings us to the natural evolution of this discussion.
All right.
If playing great offense and having a huge income doesn't automatically equal wealth, how do the prodigious accumulators actually trap the capital and build their net worth?
All right, if we're talking about plugging the holes in the bucket, how do they do it? And the answer, the sources hammer home relentlessly, is frugal, frugal, frugal.
Yes.
They play defense at a level most people would find uncomfortable or even embarrassing.
Because frugality is the absolute bedrock of wealth accumulation. The research defines it behaviorally as an economy in the use of resources. The polar opposite of frugal is wasteful.
And paws hate waste.
Paws have a visceral, almost allergic reaction to waste.
The book uses a brilliant contrast to explain this. They look at the small-town auctioneer versus the corporate executive.
I love this part.
This completely rewired how I viewed geography and wealth. Like, why does a guy auctioning off farm equipment in a rural area often accumulate significantly more wealth than a high-earning corporate executive living in a major suburb?
It's all about the environment of consumption.
Okay, explain that.
The auctioneer operates in a professional and social ecosystem where conspicuous consumption isn't just unnecessary, it might actually be detrimental to his business.
Right.
He doesn't need to wear a bespoke Zegna suit to an auction in a muddy barn. In fact, if he did, his clients wouldn't trust him.
He'd look ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to drive a leased Mercedes to fit in with his peers. The corporate executive, however, is swimming in a highly toxic status environment.
Oh, completely.
His peers, his bosses, his subordinates, they all judge him by the zip code he lives in, the brand of watch on his wrist, the exclusivity of his country club.
It's an invisible tax on his income just to be allowed in the building.
That's a perfect way to put it. Maintaining that corporate facade requires a continuous massive outflow of cash.
Yeah.
The executive is forced to play a high-stakes, perpetual game of keeping up with the Joneses, and the entrance fee for that game is their potential net worth. The auctioneer doesn't play the game, so he keeps his money.
And the way the POGEBUs fight back against this drift into consumption is through relentless budgeting. The stats are wild. For every 100 millionaires who do not budget, there are 120 who do.
They meticulously track where the capital goes.
But I know a lot of listeners hate budgeting. It feels restrictive. The research actually addresses the millionaires who don't budget, though. How do they pull it off without tracking every penny?
They use a psychological hack the researchers call artificial scarcity.
Okay.
You might know it as the classic pay yourself first strategy,
Mm-hmm.
but the pause take it to an extreme.
How extreme?
They take 15, 20, sometimes 30% of their gross income and aggressively divert it into investments before it ever hits their checking account.
Wow.
They force their household to operate on the artificially scarce remainder.
I think the best analogy for this is metabolic adaptation in fitness.
Oh, how so?
Well, I've seen UAWs suddenly realize they are broke, and they try to fix their finances the exact same way someone goes on a drastic crash diet.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. They panic. They cut up all their credit cards. They track every single penny on a spreadsheet for 3 weeks. They starve themselves of any joy or entertainment. And then they completely snap.
Yeah, the behavioral relapse.
Exactly. The willpower depletes. They experience behavioral relapse. And they go out and finance a boat. Or, book a luxury vacation on a new card.
That is a brilliant parallel. Because wealth accumulation, much like true physical fitness, requires a permanent, sustainable lifestyle change, not a temporary shock to the system.
Exactly.
Paws don't view artificial scarcity or budgeting as a punishment. They view it as strategic capital allocation. And a massive part of that strategy involves what is arguably the most important technical concept in the entire book.
Which is?
Minimizing realized, taxable income, and maximizing unrealized income.
Ah, yes. Taxes. We all know the brutal math of taxes. The standard W-2 earner is getting absolutely crushed at the 32 or 37% marginal rate, while the equity holder is surfing on tax-deferred compounding.
Right.
But what shocked me in this data is just how extreme the split is between how the wealthy structure this versus the middle class.
Let's use an analogy to make the mechanics of this crystal clear for everyone.
Always do.
Realized income. So
no.
your salary, your annual bonus, the dividends you cash out is like trying to catch snowflakes in your bare hands.
Okay.
The second it hits your hand, your body heat melts it. That body heat is the IRS.
Actual.
They take their cut immediately, and you are left with a fraction of what fell from the sky. Unrealized income, on the other hand, the growth in the value of your business, your real estate appreciating, your index funds compounding, is like rolling a snowball down a long, snow-covered hill.
I like this.
It gathers mass, it gets larger and heavier, and it is completely untouched. The IRS only takes a bite when you finally stop the snowball at the bottom of the hill and chop a piece off to sell.
And the data shows the average millionaire in this study realizes less than 7% of their total wealth and income each year.
Less than 7%. That means 93% of their wealth is the snowball rolling down the hill. It is compounding, growing, completely shielded from the friction of taxation.
That is profound.
Yeah.
I mean, they are actively choosing to live on less than 7% of their net worth to starve the tax man and feed the compound interest machine.
And we can look at a famous macro-level example from the book's era to illustrate this. H. Ross Perot.
Oh, yeah.
During the time frame of this specific research, Perot was worth an estimated $2.4 billion.
Billion with a B.
Billion with a B.
Ah.
But he structured his wealth, his municipal bonds, and his business equity so efficiently that he paid only 8.5% of his realized income in taxes.
Wow. 8.5%.
Compare that to the typical high-income UAW, say, a
Yeah.
highly paid surgeon or corporate attorney who might be paying over 31 to 37% of their income to the government because literally all of their wealth is generated as highly taxed ordinary income.
So the UAW is grinding out 70-hour weeks to generate massive cash flow, and the government just skims a third of it right off the top before they even see it. Meanwhile, the paw is quietly letting their assets grow tax-free. If we look at the modern U.S. economy, this is the exact underlying mechanism of why maximizing a 401k, holding low-cost S&P 500 index funds, or owning a primary residence is so powerful.
Completely.
The U.S. tax code isn't just a way to collect revenue. It's a behavioral rulebook. It is the government telling you exactly what they want you to do.
That's it, exactly. The government wants to incentivize capital allocation, housing stability, and business growth.
Right.
If you provide those things to the economy by holding assets, they reward you with massive tax subsidies and deferments. If you just want to earn a massive salary so you can buy depreciating consumer luxury goods, they will penalize you at the absolute maximum marginal rate.
So the actionable step here is to actively manipulate your tax footprint. Live below your means, yes, but specifically, lower your realized income. Automate your investments.
Max out those tax-advantaged accounts.
Max them out before that money ever hits your checking account. Make it invisible to yourself so you literally cannot spend it on a big hat.
And frugality isn't strictly limited to capital allocation either. It is equally about how you allocate your time and your cognitive energy.
Oh, that's a huge point.
Which transitions perfectly into the profound behavioral differences the researchers found between how accumulators and underaccumulators manage their time.
Right, because time is the great equalizer. You can inherit money, but you can't inherit extra hours in the day.
Exactly.
And the data here shows a massive, definitive discrepancy. PAWs spend nearly twice as many hours per month planning their financial investments as UAWs do. The exact numbers are 8.4 hours a month for PAWs versus just 4.6 hours for UAWs.
8.4 hours a month. When you break it down, that is roughly 2 hours a week.
Right.
It does not sound like a Herculean effort, but consistency over decades is the key. And to illustrate the compounding effect of this time, the research presents one of my favorite case studies. The Tale of Two Doctors.
Yes, Dr. North and Dr. South. I want to dive deep into this comparison because it perfectly encapsulates everything we've talked about so far. Set the stage for us.
Let's start with Dr. South, our UAW. He is a highly respected physician. He earns a massive income, placing his household in the 99.5th percentile of all earners in America.
Top tier.
Top tier. But his family's consumption habits are completely unrestrained. They spend $30,000 a year just on clothing.
That's insane.
He drives luxury European cars. He maintains the elite country club membership. They take lavish, highly visible vacations.
Right.
Consequently, despite his massive income, his actual net worth is only $400,000. He is trapped.
And he's stressed.
He spends his limited cognitive energy worrying about losing his edge, agonizing over how he's going to fund his children's expensive lifestyles, and working grueling hours just to maintain the facade.
He is literally running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up. And then, in contrast, you have Dr. North.
Dr. North is our paw. He is also a physician. He earns roughly the exact same massive income as Dr. South. But his behavior is entirely different.
How so?
He heavily utilizes artificial scarcity investing, a massive 40% of his pre-tax income.
40%.
Yeah. He and his wife live in a very modest home in a non-pretentious neighborhood. They don't buy bespoke clothing. They don't carry high-end department store credit cards with rolling balances.
Right.
Because he allocated his capital and his time efficiently, his net worth is $7.5 million. He has more than 18 times the wealth of Dr. South on the exact same salary.
18 times the wealth. And this contrast opens up a massive discussion about something the authors term the doctor paradox.
Right.
Because logically, you would assume that doctors, lawyers, top-tier engineers, the most highly educated professionals in our society, would automatically be the wealthiest people. They have the highest incomes.
You'd think so.
But statistically, they often lag severely in wealth accumulation compared to like small business owners.
A lot.
What is the headwind they are fighting?
There are two massive headwinds, actually. One mathematical and one psychological.
Okay, let's hear the mathematical one first.
Mathematically, they are victims of delayed compounding. Think about the financial life cycle of a physician. They spend their 20s and often the first half of their 30s in medical school and grueling residencies.
Right, they're making, what, 60 grand a year if they're lucky during residency?
If they're lucky. And they usually accumulate hundreds of thousands of dollars in high-interest student loan debt.
Exactly.
By the time they finally hit that massive income spike at age 32 or 35, the paw, who started a boring plumbing business at age 22, has already had 10 to 15 years of compound interest working in their favor.
That is massive. Time is the supreme variable in investing, and highly educated professionals spot the competition a 10-year head start.
They sacrifice the most powerful early years of the compounding curve.
And the psychological headwind.
The psychological one is arguably harder to overcome. After enduring a decade of grueling study, sleep deprivation, deferred gratification, and, watching their peers make money while they ate ramen,
Yeah.
many professionals develop a deep sense of entitlement. Of course.
They feel they have earned the right to live richly. When that first big attending physician paycheck hits, there's immense internal and external pressure to display high-status artifacts.
They want to prove to themselves, to their parents, and to society that all the sacrifice was worth it.
Exactly. So they try to make up for lost time by instantly adopting a hyper-consumption lifestyle.
They feel they are owed the Mercedes and the massive house because of all those night shifts in the ER. It's a psychological compensation mechanism.
It really is.
But the tragic irony is that by buying the artifacts, they ensure they stay stressed. The data explicitly states that UAWs worry constantly about running out of money, while PAWs have almost zero financial fears.
That peace of mind is priceless.
But I want to go back to that time allocation metric. 8.4 hours a month. I can hear listeners right now reacting to that.
Oh, I'm sure.
They're driving to work thinking, I have kids, I have a demanding job, I'm exhausted. I don't have an extra 8.4 hours to stare at spreadsheets.
But let's be intellectually honest here. The average American spends 20 to 30 hours a week watching streaming services or doom-scrolling social media.
Exactly. It is entirely an issue of prioritization, not capacity. But it's also crucial to understand what the PAWs are actually doing during those 8.4 hours because they aren't wasting it.
Right, they aren't just refreshing their Robin Hood act.
No, not at all. They are not sitting in front of 6 monitors, frantically day trading options, or watching CNBC and having panic attacks about macroeconomics.
Thank goodness.
They focus on deep strategic planning. They are reviewing their asset allocation, tracking their capital outflows against their budget, and critically, they are evaluating their financial advisors.
Yeah, the advisors. The book highlights a specific approach they call the Martin method, named after one of the interviewees.
Yeah.
Walk us through how PAWs hire financial help, because it is entirely different from how the middle class does it.
PAWs treat their personal wealth like a corporation, and they are the CEO. When they need a financial advisor, a CPA, or a trust attorney, they act like a board of directors hiring a critical executive.
Makes sense.
Mr. Martin, a self-made multimillionaire from the study, doesn't just hand his capital over to a guy who bought him a steak dinner or who belongs to his country club.
Which is what everyone else does.
Exactly.
Right.
He runs a ruthless vetting process. He requests references. He asks for college transcripts. He runs credit checks on the advisor. He conducts multiple rounds of interviews.
That is intense.
And most importantly, he demands to know the advisor's personal net worth and how their own money is invested. He evaluates them with the exact same rigor a Fortune 500 company would use.
Like, show me your personal Vanguard portfolio before I let you touch mine.
Basically, yes.
Meanwhile, the UAW often just goes with whoever has the flashiest brochure or whoever the senior partner at their law firm recommended.
They outsource the cognitive load because they don't want to spend the 8.4 hours.
So the takeaway here is profoundly simple. You have to dedicate 2 hours a week to your financial life. Review your accounts, track your expenditures, study basic investment principles.
Understand what an index fund actually is. Understand expense ratios.
Right. Stop treating your money as an afterthought and start acting like the CEO of your own personal holding company.
That is the only way to achieve the peace of mind that Dr. North has. You have to put in the quiet, consistent hours of strategic planning.
Because if you don't,
Because if you abdicate that responsibility, you will almost certainly be pulled by gravity into the biggest, most destructive black hole for wealth accumulation in American society.
status trap.
The status trap.
Yeah.
The relentless, exhausting, psychologically draining pursuit of displaying high social status.
We've established how UAWs burn their time and capital on this, but I want to look at the antidote.
Okay.
The research introduces us to a fascinating character named W.W. Allen. They label him as Super Paw. His net worth exceeds his expected wealth equation by more than tenfold.
He is incredibly wealthy.
He owns multiple manufacturing businesses, yet he has lived in the exact same 3-bedroom house for 40 years. And he explicitly prefers driving full-size standard GM stands.
Classic paw behavior.
Right. And when the researchers ask him to explain his philosophy, he says something that stopped me in my tracks. He views money strictly as a report card.
It is a profound psychological detachment. For Mr. Allen, and for the vast majority of PAWs, financial independence and autonomy are infinitely more valuable than the symbolic power of high social status.
Because status doesn't actually pay the bills.
Exactly. He uses the report card analogy because to him, a growing net worth is just a metric of how well he is operating his businesses and his life. It's a high score.
Right.
You don't take your high score and trade it in for a shiny car. You just keep trying to increase the score. He deeply understands a behavioral concept known as the Diderot effect.
The Diderot effect. Explain that, because this is the exact mechanism of how the trap snaps shut.
The Diderot effect states that obtaining a new possession often creates a spiral of consumption that leads you to acquire more new things. It's the complementary nature of status products.
Oh, I see.
If you are Mr. Allen and you buy a brand new $150,000 luxury car, suddenly parking it in the driveway of a modest 40-year-old 3-bedroom house feels incongruous. It doesn't match.
Right? It looks weird.
So you upgrade the house, you buy the mansion, But now your old, comfortable furniture looks cheap and out of place in the grand foyer of the mansion.
So you buy expensive new furniture.
Exactly. Then you need the art to match the furniture and the clothes to match the house. It's an endless domino effect of consumption. Mr. Allen survives because he flat out refuses to push over that first domino.
That's like the Apple ecosystem. You buy the iPhone, suddenly you need the watch, then the AirPods, then the Mac.
Perfect analogy.
He inoculates himself at the source. And the research specifically identifies a unique subsegment of millionaires who use cars as their primary defense mechanism.
The used vehicle-prone shopper.
Yes, these are multimillionaires who absolutely refuse to buy new luxury cars. They buy high-quality, reliable, gently used vehicles.
And by refusing to buy into that initial, highly visible status artifact, they protect themselves from the entire lifestyle disease that follows.
The data proves this is a highly effective, almost impenetrable defensive strategy, particularly for people who do not have massive top-tier incomes but still want to build wealth.
Yes, and the researchers present a stunning contrast here. Dr. Bill versus Mr. Norman.
Walk us through this one.
So Dr. Bill is a used car-prone shopper. He is a college professor. Mr. Norman is a corporate executive. They live on the exact same street in the same neighborhood.
Okay.
Mr. Norman earns over $150,000 a year, which at the time of the study was twice what Dr. Bill earned. Yet, Dr. Bill's net worth is 9 times higher than Mr. Norman's.
I just want to underline that. Dr. Bill makes half the income, but has 9 times the wealth, living on the exact same street.
Yeah.
How does Mr. Norman get it so wrong?
Mr. Norman is the quintessential victim of the neighborhood trap. Because he lives in an upscale area, and because he associates with other executives, he feels an overwhelming psychological compulsion to match the consumption habits of the people around him.
Peer pressure, basically.
High-stakes peer pressure. He buys the new imported cars, he pays for the elite club memberships, he wears the tailored suits. And to fund that massive cash outflow, he is forced to realize massive amounts of taxable income, bleeding him dry at the highest marginal tax rates.
Wow.
Dr. Bill lives in the exact same geographic neighborhood, but he completely ignores the psychological status game. He plays incredible financial defense.
This reminds me so much of modern titans. Look at Warren Buffett.
The ultimate paw.
Truly. He's one of the wealthiest humans in history, yet he still lives in the same relatively modest house in Omaha that he bought in 1958 for $31,000.
Yep.
He famously drove older Cadillacs for years, often buying them with hail damage just to get a discount.
Which is incredible.
But I have to channel the listener again here. I have to play devil's advocate.
Let's hear it.
Because the most common critique of this entire philosophy is, isn't the point of making money to actually enjoy it?
Yeah.
Why live like a monk just to be the richest guy in the graveyard? What is the point of the high score if you never spend the tickets at the arcade?
It's the most common pushback, and it fundamentally misunderstands human psychology and what actually generates lasting joy.
Okay.
PAWs do enjoy their money, but they derive their joy from the security, the autonomy, and the ultimate independence it brings.
Not the stuff.
Right. They sleep incredibly soundly at night, knowing they could survive for a decade without a paycheck. They find profound, lasting satisfaction in the process of building a business or watching a portfolio compound or having the absolute freedom to walk away from a toxic job.
That makes sense.
They do not need the fleeting, momentary dopamine hit of buying a luxury good, a good that literally starts depreciating the second you drive it off the lot.
So they have essentially traded the cheap, fast dopamine hit of a new purchase for the deep, lasting serotonin calm of absolute financial security.
Perfectly stated. They value freedom over artifacts. They understand that every dollar you spend on a status symbol is a dollar of your future freedom that you just sold back to the system.
That is powerful. So the takeaway here is to ruthlessly evaluate your next big purchase.
Yes.
Before you buy the car, the watch, the house upgrade, you have to ask yourself honestly, is this a tool for living or is this a big hat?
Right.
Are you buying this because it genuinely improves your life? Or are you buying it to impress people you don't even like? If it's a big hat, walk away. Take that exact amount of money, buy an S&P 500 index fund, and buy yourself a piece of actual future freedom instead.
And that leads us to what is arguably the most insidious, tragic, and controversial concept in the entire book.
Which is?
Well, we've established that these high-consumption UAWs are fundamentally broke, but they live in nice houses and drive nice cars. So how are they sustaining these lifestyles year after year? How is Mr. Norman keeping up appearances if his balance sheet is zero?
This part of the data completely blew my mind. The dark hidden secret of American suburbs is that a massive percentage of these high flyers are being secretly funded by their wealthy parents.
Yes. The authors coined a brilliant term for this, economic outpatient care, or EOC.
Economic outpatient care.
It refers to the substantial economic gifts, subsidies, and continuous acts of kindness that affluent parents give to their adult children. And it is shockingly widespread.
Oh, widespread.
The data reveals that over 46% of the affluent give $15,000 or more yearly to their adult children or grandchildren.
To contextualize that, these parents are subsidizing their adult children's lives to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars a year. It's the modern equivalent of giving them a massive down payment for a house they can't actually afford the mortgage on.
Exactly. And the book highlights a devastating case study here, the tragedy of Mary and Lamar.
Tell us about Mary and Lamar.
This couple earns $60,000 a year, which is a solid, respectable middle-class income. But they live in a massive, expensive house, they drive foreign luxury cars, and they maintain a lifestyle congruent with a $150,000 income.
How do they bridge the gap?
Mary's mother gives her a substantial gift of appreciating stock every 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And pay close attention to what Mary and Lamar do with that appreciating asset. They don't hold it. They don't let it compound.
They sell it.
They instantly sell the stock, realize the tax hit, and use the cash to buy a new luxury car. They are literally cannibalizing their family's true wealth, chopping up the snowball to buy depreciating status symbols.
The researchers found an absolute mathematically proven correlation. The more dollars adult children receive, the fewer dollars they accumulate. Conversely, those who are given fewer dollars accumulate more.
It is an inverse relationship that holds true across almost all demographic lines. By providing constant financial bailouts, down payments, and lifestyle subsidies, affluent parents actually destroy their children's ability to generate their own wealth.
They rob them of the necessity that breeds ambition, discipline, and resilience.
Exactly.
This is such a painful paradox. Like, you work your entire life, you make massive sacrifices, you play incredible defense to build this wealth, and your ultimate goal is probably to make your kids' lives a little easier than yours was.
Naturally.
But by doing that, by actively giving them the money to smooth out the rough edges, you actually cripple them. You literally turn them into dependent UAWs.
It is the psychology of affirmative action applied at the family level. The parents mistakenly believe that their wealth can automatically transform their children into economically productive, happy adults.
But it doesn't work that way.
No, because discipline, frugality, and initiative cannot be gifted. They cannot be inherited. They have to be forged through experience and very often through painful struggle and scarcity.
Yeah.
When you give a child money without the struggle, you break the neurochemical link in their brain between hard work and reward. You give them the dopamine of the purchase without the serotonin of the achievement.
There is a brilliant, almost cruel test mentioned in the sources called the montage effect. It perfectly illustrates this dependency.
Oh, this one is rough.
A wealthy parent wants to test his adult son's actual financial independence. After Thanksgiving dinner, the father casually mentions to the son that he and the mother have decided to donate a highly valuable piece of commercial real estate to a local college, rather than leaving it to the son in their will.
And how does the son react?
The son's reaction is entirely predictable for a UAW dependent on economic outpatient care.
Yeah.
He goes absolutely ballistic. He feels robbed. He views his parents' wealth as his own deferred income.
Wow.
His extreme visceral reaction reveals to the father his complete financial and emotional dependency on his parents' balance sheet. He isn't an independent adult. He's a dependent waiting for a payout.
It's terrifying.
It really is. So how do the paws avoid this? If you are building wealth, how do you raise successful, independent kids without ruining them?
The researchers outline specific, strict rules the wealthy use to successfully raise children.
Okay, what are they?
First and foremost, never let your children know you are wealthy until they are fully established in their own mature, disciplined professions.
Okay.
Second, teach frugality and discipline by example. Children learn what they observe you doing, not what you lecture them about.
Right.
And third, never compete with your children. Don't use your massive house or your luxury cars to intimidate them or make their own modest early career achievements feel small.
It's the old proverb, teach them how to fish. Don't just give them the fish.
Yes, exactly. Fund their education. If they want to start a business and have a solid plan, provide seed capital as an investor. But never, ever subsidize a high consumption lifestyle.
Right. Never pay the mortgage on a house they couldn't afford on their own salary.
Never.
So the takeaway here is clear. If you have kids, your job is to build resilient, independent adults, not professional dependents. Cut off the economic outpatient care if it's funding a lifestyle they haven't earned. Make them hungry.
Now, if we are cutting off our kids to make them hungry, where should they direct that hunger?
Good question.
We assume we want them starting the next flashy tech unicorn, but the data says something completely different. We need to look at what careers actually produce millionaires.
Yes, which leads us to the entrepreneurial dilemma and choosing your niche. We already know from the data that the vast majority of first-generation millionaires are self-employed entrepreneurs.
Right.
But what kinds of businesses are they actually running? Are they building AI startups in Silicon Valley? Are they inventing revolutionary software?
Far from it. The businesses that statistically produce the most millionaires are what the authors affectionately call dull normal.
Dull normal. Like what?
We are talking about welding contractors, pest controllers, mobile home park owners, paving contractors, small-town auctioneers, scrap metal dealers.
The incredibly unglamorous stuff.
Highly unglamorous. But that lack of glamour is the exact reason they are so incredibly profitable. It's the Lindy effect of boring businesses.
Explain that.
Dull, normal businesses face significantly less competition. Think about it. A brilliant, ambitious graduate from a top-tier MBA program usually wants to work for a prestigious private equity firm or a flashy tech startup in San Francisco.
Sure.
They rarely aspire to start a commercial plumbing business in Ohio.
Wow.
Because the competition for prestige is so low in these sectors, and the demand for these basic essential services is highly consistent regardless of the macroeconomy. The profit margins can be exceptional.
They are finding high margins in low-status work. But here's the massive paradox in the research that absolutely fascinated me.
Oh, this is a big one.
These self-made millionaire entrepreneurs who built their fortunes, their entire empires, in these dull, normal businesses, they explicitly steer their own children away from becoming entrepreneurs.
They do.
Why would they do that? If it works so well for them, why tell their kids to avoid it?
Because the entrepreneur understands the brutal mathematical reality of business risk. They know survivorship bias intimately.
Right, they survived, but a lot didn't.
Exactly. They know that they survived and they're wealthy, but they also know exactly how easily they could have failed, gone bankrupt, and lost everything. Most businesses do fail.
Yeah.
The entrepreneur understands that their success involved incredibly hard work, extreme frugality, and, frankly, a healthy dose of luck. They love their children, and they do not want their children to face that level of existential, gut-wrenching financial risk.
So what do they tell them to do instead? Where do they point them?
They steer them directly toward the self-employed professional class. They want their kids to become doctors, corporate lawyers, CPAs, engineers, architects.
Yeah.
They view the specialized knowledge and the elite credentials of a professional as portable, highly safe assets. A medical degree cannot go bankrupt the way a mobile home dealership can.
That is fascinating. They use the massive wealth generated from high-risk entrepreneurship to buy low-risk, credentialed professional stability for the next generation.
Exactly.
Now, if you are listening to this and you are a professional or you have zero desire to start a pest control business, there is still a highly lucrative, proven path mapped out in the data.
Yep.
You can build incredible wealth by pivoting your existing services to target the affluent.
This is a huge unlock.
Explain that mechanism, because I'm sure listeners are confused right now. We just spent the last 50 minutes talking about how insanely frugal the affluent are. They drive 10-year-old Fords. Why on earth would you target cheapskates as your primary customer base?
Because you have to understand what they are frugal about.
Okay.
The affluent are frugal about status artifacts, not about genuine value. They will absolutely not overpay for a designer suit or a luxury car, but they will spend heavily and happily pay premium, top-of-market rates for services that protect their wealth, grow their businesses, or benefit their families.
Oh, I see.
They will pay top dollar for elite accounting and tax mitigation advice. They pay massive retainers for estate planning attorneys to protect their assets from probate. They pay out-of-pocket for top-tier medical and dental care for themselves and their grandchildren.
They spend massive amounts of capital on private education and elite tutors.
Exactly.
So they won't buy the Rolex, but they will happily pay a CPA $50,000 if that CPA can save them $100,000 in taxes.
That's the math they care about.
It means the sexiest businesses are usually the least profitable because everyone wants to do them. The most boring businesses are gold mines. And if you are in a professional service, you should pivot your entire practice to target the pause.
Precisely. If you are a standard accountant, pivot and become an absolute expert in estate tax reduction and succession planning for high net worth business owners. If you are a lawyer, specialize in complex trusts and wealth transfer. The Millionaire Next Door desperately needs these specific services and has the liquid capital to pay for the absolute best advice available.
You don't have to build a massive tech empire. You just have to become a highly competent, deeply trusted B2B advisor to the people who own the dull normal empires.
But that's the secret.
Actionable takeaway. Look for opportunities in the dull normal. Look for the boring, dirty problems that need solving.
Yeah.
And if you're a credentialed professional, refine your niche immediately. Target the affluent demographic not by selling them luxury, but by providing high-level services that solve their specific fears and needs. Tax mitigation, wealth transfer, family security. Provide genuine, measurable value.
It's about becoming indispensable to the people who actually hold the capital.
Okay, we have covered massive ground today, and I want to make sure this all crystallizes for the listener.
Let's do it.
Let's do a quick recap to synthesize this entire paradigm shift. The ultimate lesson from the Millionaire Next Door is that wealth is fundamentally about accumulation and retention, not consumption. It is a defensive game.
Completely.
It requires meticulous capital allocation and frugality to keep your realized taxable income as low as legally possible, allowing your assets to compound untouched.
It requires the efficient allocation of your time and cognitive energy, spending those crucial 8.4 hours a month strategically planning your financial future and vetting your advisors, rather than shopping for a new car or doom scrolling.
It demands that you recognize and actively avoid the status trap. You have to stop caring what your neighbors think of your 10-year-old car or your modest house. You have to trade the dopamine of status for the serotonin of freedom.
It requires a strict, absolute rejection of economic outpatient care, both as a receiver and a giver, so that true financial independence and resilience can be forged in the next generation.
And finally, it involves finding highly profitable, often dull normal niches, or pivoting your professional services to solve the high-stakes problems of the affluent.
What is truly remarkable about this research, and why it remains a foundational text in finance, is its enduring relevance.
Because it really has held up.
It has. In the prefaces to much later editions of the book, the authors note that this exact demographic data holds up even through severe macroeconomic meltdowns.
Like the 2008 financial crisis.
Exactly. When 2008 hit, or the 2020 disruptions who survived, it certainly wasn't the UAW with the massive adjustable rate mortgage on the McMansion and 3 leased luxury SUVs.
No, they got wiped out.
The Millionaire Next Door survives and usually thrives during recessions because they live so far below their means. They have margin. They aren't over-leveraged.
Right.
Furthermore, the data shows they keep their wealth insulated. They typically hold less than 30% of their wealth in volatile public equities, preferring to invest heavily in their own private businesses and local real estate where they have direct control. They control their own destiny.
They're completely anti-fragile.
Yeah.
They built a fortress while everyone else was building a parade float.
And that reality raises an important question, which is the final thought I want to leave you with today.
Let's hear it.
The media, the advertising industry, our entire modern digital culture conditions us every single second of the day to believe that wealth is the ability to buy whatever you want whenever you want it.
Yeah.
But what if true wealth is actually the total freedom from needing to buy anything to prove your worth? Next time you are sitting at a stoplight and a shiny, brand new $120,000 luxury car pulls up next to you, take a breath and ask yourself, are you looking at wealth? Or are you just looking at a depreciating liability and massive debt with a really nice paint job?
Wow. Freedom from needing to buy anything to prove your worth. That hits incredibly hard, and it changes the way you view the entire world.
It really does.
So here is your call to action for this week. Take one step, just one. Calculate your wealth equation today to see exactly where you stand.
Or sit down and track your expenses for the last 30 days to see where the leaks in your bucket are.
Start playing defense. Keep learning, keep thinking critically, and remember that 57-year-old guy in the JCPenney suit, the real millionaire next door.